My education changed my life. You wouldn't have thought that studying about the transformation of the disk drive industry would have inspired me to try to transform our education system. But that's exactly what happened. It wasn't just the disk drive industry, of course. No. It was studying in my education about the transformation of other exciting industries, like the steel industry, computing, transportation, how we communicate. It all changed the way I saw the world. Learning about the principles behind these transformations, what we call the theories of disruptive innovation, inspired me to dedicate my life to transform our education system so that all children everywhere could have what I had had, access to an education that allows them to find their passion and fulfill their human potential. I wrote a book called Disrupting Class with my teacher and the father of these theories of disruptive innovation. His name is Clay Christensen. And in it, we talked about how disruptive innovation could change the way the world learns. And I founded a nonprofit where our mission is to transform our education system into a student-centric one. Today, our education system isn't student-centric at all. It's a monolithic one built to standardize the way we teach and test. It's literally modeled after a factory. Today, we batch students up, send them into classrooms, and we teach to the class, not the individual. We actually have students that progress right now through units, subjects, grades, based on time, not based on their actual mastery of learning. We actually fund schools based on the number of minutes that a student sits in a seat. We call it seat time. Folks, I've got some news for us. For over a century now, we've literally been measuring the wrong end of the student. Not only that, the system isn't built for maximizing learning at all. We actually built it to sort students and sort them out. You know the dropout rates that we all see and bemoan? Our education system was actually designed to do just that. Now, to be fair to this monolithic education system, it was actually wildly successful for society at large for several decades. The reason was this: when most students would leave the education system, they would go into jobs in factories and manufacturing that didn't require the higher order skills that often came with a high school diploma or a college degree. The basic literacies were just fine. But the world has changed dramatically. We live in an international, globally competitive economy, a knowledge economy, where every student has to maximize their learning to be successful. You don't have to look at the test scores or the international country comparisons for evidence of this. All you have to do is look right here, at home. Over the last several years, we've been living through this strange time with record high unemployment. And yet at the same time, employers say that they have over 2 million job openings for which they cannot find qualified people. So just think about that for a second. Millions of people looking for work and millions of job openings for which there are not qualified people to work. We have an education problem in this country and a mismatch that we've got to solve. We need a new system, a student-centric one that can customize for each individual's needs. Now, the reason we need this is because all of us, all students, we have different learning needs at different times in our lives. If you're a parent and you have 2 kids, this is probably intuitive to you. But academics have been arguing about these differences for the last several decades. Which ones are they? Which ones matter? The thing that is this: no one disagrees on a few of these differences. We all learn at different paces. So the nice thing about this TED video is people watching can hit pause and rewind if they didn't catch something, or they can fast forward through something if they already understand it, which points to the second difference, which is that we all bring different levels of background knowledge to a learning experience. And the third thing is that we all have different aptitudes. what cognitive scientists refer to as working memory capacities. That is, we can absorb different amounts of information and work with it in our minds. And because of all these differences, if the goal of learning has changed so that we maximize all of our learning, then we need a system that can customize for these differences. Now, as we studied the problem, we saw something that many people had seen over the decades. It wasn't that novel, which was that if you could shift some of the learning to the platform of the computer, to digital learning, that you did have an inherently modular system that could inherently customize for different learning needs. So you could also do some exciting things as well. You could embed sound instructional practices in these platforms so you could scale them across the world. You could build in rich interactivity, the ability to communicate and collaborate. You could give students rapid and instantaneous feedback so that they can improve. And you could build in intrinsically motivating experiences. But the challenge, as we saw it, was also this, which was that computers had been around in education for over a couple decades. By a conservative estimate, we had been spending well over $60 billion equipping our schools with computers, and yet the system hadn't changed at all. It had barely boosted student outcomes. So the question was, what was going on? And as we looked at it, we thought that the theories of disruptive innovation actually shone a light on why it had not had this transformational purpose, but also how we could use this medium to really transform our education system into this student-centric one. So let me take a step back and just tell you about the theories of disruptive innovation for a moment. A disruptive innovation is one that transforms a sector characterized by things that are expensive, complicated, deeply centralized, and inaccessible into things that are far more affordable, convenient, simple to use, and accessible. We've seen it transform lots of sectors. Computing is one. The personal computer was a disruptive innovation relative to mainframe computers and mini computers. If you remember mainframe computers, they were huge things that would literally fill an entire room. They cost a couple $1 million to buy. They were so complicated that you actually had to bring your task to experts who would run the computing thing for you. And they were centralized. You had to go to the computing center to do your computing. The personal computer changed all that. It was significantly more affordable. As opposed to $2 million, it cost $2,000. It was simple to use. Any old fool like myself could use a personal computer. And not only that, it was a lot more convenient. Rather than you going to the computing came to you at your fingertips on your desktop. And it transformed the world. The second principle of this transformation is that never do disruptive innovations take root by aiming at the mainstream at the beginning. They start outside on the fringe areas, in these areas we call non-consumption, where the alternative is literally nothing at all. So the first personal computers were actually sold as toys to children because they couldn't afford a $2 million mainframe machine, so they were delighted with this thing that was way better than their alternative, nothing at all. And it started there and it got better year over year over year until it changed the world. Now, as we turn to education, we saw this disruption playing itself out as well in the form of online learning. If you look at higher education, in the first wave of online learning, it was serving non-consumers. Generally working adults who couldn't go to the campus for their education, so online learning allowed the education to come to them. At any time of day, at any time of night, they could learn. Not only that, in the second wave of disruption, in these massively open online courses we're starting to see, you don't even have to go to Stanford to get a Stanford education. Stanford will come to you in the form of online learning. And it's actually serving way more than working adults in this country. It's serving hundreds of thousands of people around the world in developing countries like India who literally have no access to higher education at all. In K-12, it's a little bit more complicated. But internationally, it's pretty clear how the online learning platforms can make a difference. There are literally 70 million people worldwide who do not have access to elementary school at all. There are 200 million people worldwide who do not have access to high school. It's pretty clear that these developing countries can take these online learning technologies, put them into new models, and leapfrog a lot of what we're doing in the United States in their education system. But there's hope for the US too. While schooling is compulsory, if you look at the level of courses, there's lots of areas of non-consumption. For example, remediation or credit recovery, or dropouts that we'd love to be able to serve in new models, or the advanced courses that every school would like to be offering their students. Online learning can plant itself there and really start to make a difference, and it is. And it led us to make some crazy predictions. By 2014, just 2 years from now, we predict that 50% of all students in America in college and university will be taking at least one online course. And by 2019, 7 years from now, 50% of all high school courses will be delivered online in some form or fashion. It's breathtaking, but it also misses the point, because the question is, will it transform our system into a student-centric one? And there's some optimistic signs, and then there's some question marks. The optimistic signs are that the technology is improving, as every disruption does. Particularly in K-12, online learning is really a blended learning phenomenon. It's online learning happening in school environments where students need to be, with teachers, with their peers. And it's allowing them to individualize. We're seeing robust uses of data to better personalize learning, figure out what works for whom. Communication vehicles are improving. You can name it. It's getting better day over day. And that's exciting. But the other thing we have to do is get out of our own way. We have to be comfortable changing the model itself, from schooling as we've known it based on seat time to mastery-based learning, where students can progress at the path and pace that makes sense for them. I had the opportunity to visit a blended learning school just a few days ago in Salt Lake City. It's called Innovations High School. And I was talking to a student there, and she said to me, before this school, I was preparing my life to be a cashier at a fast food restaurant. But now that I've had this experience, it's completely changed my attitude. The sky is the limit, and I'm daring to dream again. I can move at my own path and pace, and the school is built around what I need. Not only that, but I get great experiences to collaborate with my peers, to do projects, and the teachers aren't focused on a big, massive class, but they're focused on me as the individual student. And as I listened to her say that to me, it occurred to me, this isn't about the technology at all. The technology is a platform that can allow us to scale these things, but it's to scale the model. And we can all do that. All of us here can do that together to allow every student to find their passion and purpose and to realize their full human potential.